What's up, Star Wars nerds, and welcome to another episode of Brett on Fett. On today's episode, we'll take a look at the all-new Cad Bane figure for the Vintage Collection and compare him to some of the other Cad Bane figures that Hasbro has put out. Plus, we got a couple of other pickups, including the new Krrsantan and the Tusken Raider 4-pack. Let's get to it.
Nice hat. Where did you get it? What are you looking at? It's a nice hat.
Welcome back to the channel. This is episode 68 of Brett on Fett. And if you don't know by now, I am a huge Cad Bane fan. He's one of my favorite characters to not be in one of the major films. And this is the second episode I've done on Cad Bane that I'm calling Cad Bania. And if you want to see part 1 of Cad Bania, you've got to go all the way back to Brett on Fett episode 4. I'll put a link to that episode in the description if you're interested in watching that. But for this episode, I want to focus on the new Vintage Collection Cad Bane and then compare him to some of the other Cad Bane figures that Hasbro has put out. But before we get to all the Cad Bane talk, I want to give my quick thoughts on the brand new Krrsantan for TVC and the new 4-pack of Tusken Raiders for TVC, both of which arrived just over a week ago. So let's take a look. All right, so here it is, the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Krrsantan Deluxe Pack. Now note, this is coming out before the standard Deluxe Pack release, which is one of the reasons I wanted to pick this version up since it was made available on Pulse. But yeah, it's a great looking package, a lot of cool images there of the figure. And the slipcover comes off. There was some pop tape that I removed first, but I love the artwork on the interior box. It's a combination of comic book images and a little bit of live action, and I love his pauldrons there on the side. And it opens up to reveal the figure and the accessories. This is really cool. This is very much something that they would normally do on Black Series for Comic-Con exclusives. I don't recall them doing something like this for 3.75, so happy to see that. And I do really like the accessories that come with this set. The accessories you see on the right side are actually exclusive to this version. So you get those gladiator swords, which are really awesome. And then that electro rifle thing with the electricity effects. Oh, and he also comes with a standard Wookiee bowcaster, which is already on the figure in the middle there. And I think that one is also exclusive to this set. Although I have to admit, I kind of think it's unnecessary that they included that one. Let's take a quick look at the figure itself out of the packaging. And first off, check out this head sculpt. This is an exclusive head sculpt to this San Diego Comic-Con version where he's growling. The regular mainline release will have his mouth closed. And this was the other reason I want to get this set, because that is an awesome expression. But yeah, this figure is very impressive. I love his little soft plastic dreadlocks front and back. I love the paint apps on his pauldron and the pauldron straps. That gold looks really good. He doesn't have any articulation in his head, but the rest of his body is modern articulation with the barbell style hips and all the other joints you could possibly need. This thing also comes with 3 sets of hands, and it's just an awesome figure. I'm just really impressed. Here he is with his standard big gun. There is those awesome gladiator swords. I really like those. And then he also comes with that beer stein and fruit. Those are accessories that do come in the mainline version as well, as does these electrical effects that go on his knuckle dusters. Very cool. Overall, this is an awesome figure. I'm very impressed with the job Hasbro did on this. Next up, around the same time, Hasbro Pulse also shipped their exclusive Tusken Raiders 4-pack, and by far the best thing about this 4-pack is the use of the cloth goods. You get multiple colors, some with patterns, as you'll see here, Now, the one thing disappointing to me is the molded necklace for the chieftain. I was really hoping they would do a separate accessory of soft plastic that went around his neck. I think that would have looked much better, but maybe they made up for it with the use of this patterned cloth goods, which looks excellent. So if you throw in the female Tusken warrior figure, which is an awesome figure in itself, then you have a great pack of Tusken warriors for your collection.
And who might you be?
Whatever Fett is paying you, we'll match. And all you've got to do is stay put and let things play out.
Alright, so like I said, I am a big Cad Bane fan, and you may have seen some of my Cad Bane collectibles, such as this film out image of Cad Bane signed by Dorian Kinji, the actor that plays the live action version of Cad Bane. I also have this custom card back signed by Dorian as well, and man, wouldn't it be awesome to have both these items also signed by the voice actor Corey Burton. But I just wanted to quickly show a new addition to my Cad Bane collection. This is the 2022 Topps Cad Bane Gem Mint 10 graded by PSA. This was very kindly gifted to me by John, the action figure grader. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to Action Figure Grader. It's an awesome channel. But anyways, I bought a TVC graded figure from John, and he packed in this Cad Bane trading card as a free gift. John's an awesome dude, and I absolutely love this trading card. Alright, so let's finally take a look at the new Cad Bane for the Vintage Collection. And here he is, mint on card. This is an awesome card back. I really love this one. This is from the Book of Boba Fett, of course. You got that Book of Boba Fett logo there. You've got the red name pill that matches his eyes, and that is an awesome image they used for the film out there on the card back. Great choice by Hasbro to use that image. And there's a look at the figure itself, looking pretty cool in front of that red figure pill background. And we'll flip it over to the back. You can see this is VC 283. And there is a look at the rest of the wave and other figures released around the same time. And yeah, just very happy with this card back. I did order two, so I've got one to show you guys loose. Alright, so here is Cad straight out of the packaging. Now he does come with two accessories, which are his two blaster pistols. And these look good. It's a very good mold, but there's just no paint apps on it. It would have been nice to have a little bit of metallic color and maybe some brown on the grips. So that was a little bit disappointing. Let's take a look at his hat. Now with his hat, when I first saw the promo images, I thought the crown of the hat was too wide at the base and the brim was too small, or some combination of both. But now that I have it in hand, it's really not a big deal. It doesn't bother me at all. But let's look at his face sculpt. It looks very good, although he is missing that metal plate on his head from the show. So I was surprised Hasbro decided to pass on that. I guess it was just one paint app too many for this figure. But checking out the rest of the figure, this is a very good looking mold. It's an all new sculpt. Everything looks pretty darn good here. Let's take a closer look at his breathing apparatus there. That looks really good. And then the back of it actually unplugs, which is kind of cool, because then you can actually take his duster jacket off and replug it back into his back. So that's kind of an interesting feature. And speaking of that duster, you can see it is a soft plastic, and they went ahead and molded it back behind his left holster, but then it's just flat straight out covering his right holster. I think I would have preferred both holsters be exposed, but I'm probably in the minority. Probably most people like the combination. His gauntlets look awesome. It's kind of a metallic blue paint they used, and I really like it. And I like the little tube that connects to the back of his arm there. Yeah, very happy with the gauntlets. And just the details on his belt and his like blaster cartridges right there, and a little insignias on his shirt, all look really good. I'm very happy with all this. He's got the little blaster cartridges wrapped all the way around his leg as well. They didn't miss any paint apps there, so that's good. And I'm going to demonstrate putting his blaster pistols in his holsters, and they go in fine, but it seems like the holsters are actually a tad bit too big. It's a little bit hard to show that on camera, but they feel a little bit loose, and they kind of like they engulf the entire blaster. And I'm not entirely sure if those large holsters are screen accurate or not. Maybe they are. I think I would have preferred they be either a little bit smaller or the guns be just a tad bit larger. Not a big deal, but just pointing it out. So let's take a look at the articulation of the figure. The head is on a standard ball joint, so it swivels fine. You've got a ball hinge at the shoulder, a ball hinge at the elbow, and a pretty standard wrist there with a hinge on the bottom for his right hand. I think the hinge on his left hand is actually on the top. And there is the barbell hips, which is great. You've got a swivel joint at the upper thigh, a ball joint hinge on the knees, and nothing at the ankles, but you do have a hinge at the ankles, and there are rocker ankles, so that's great. And then that ball hinge joint at the knees does bend at 90, or actually a little bit past 90, so that is awesome as well. So as is expected with a brand new figure, great articulation. So let's get his pistols into his hands. He does have very large hands, which is screen accurate. I do remember his hands being very large in the show, and the pistols fit in very nicely. No problems there at all. Let's put his hat back on, which is very snug, by the way. I forgot to mention that. His hat does fit very snug on his head. There are zero issues with keeping his hat secure as you move him around, so that's great. And this is just an awesome looking figure, so let's get him in some poses. So like with many great figures, there are a few minor flaws that I take issue with, such as the lack of the metal plate on his head and the unpainted pistols, but overall this is an awesome figure, guys. They really nailed the look of the live action Cad Bane, and it's just great to finally get Cad Bane in the vintage collection. I think it shows that Hasbro is listening to the community. This was a very popular character in the TVC polls, and I hope it means we will be getting other versions of Cad Bane in TVC. In particular, I would like to see next a Clone Wars version of him, and then eventually a Bad Batch version would be great as well.
I've taken down so many clones over the years. Once you figure out one, the rest are easy.
So next I wanted to bring in some other figures of Cad Bane, starting with this 3.75 scale Clone Wars edition of Cad Bane. Now this was repacked several times over the years, and this was the only 3.75 Cad Bane figure we got, with the exception of one version in a battle pack where he is in a clone trooper disguise. And that one is basically the same head sculpt, just mounted on a clone trooper body with a few modifications such as the hands and extra gauntlet, etc. But anyways, you can see why we were so desperate to finally get Cad Bane in the vintage collection line. But taking a look at the figure, he is in the animated style, which is fine. That's what the Clone Wars line was. But he looks good. He's got all the little details you want to see. He's got the little breathing apparatus. The paint apps are very good. He's got a hat that looks pretty good. Unfortunately, his hat is extremely loose. That's probably the worst part about this figure. It's very difficult to keep that hat on. Now, the other bad part about this figure is he does have swivel hips, those 5 POA style legs, but he does have fully articulated arms, so that's good. And for some reason, I've decided to leave the rubber bands securing his pistol to his hands. I don't know why I did that. His pistols look pretty cool with that metallic silver paint, but it should be noted that he also comes with a pretty cool looking rifle that actually has a little extra brown paint apps on the stock. So the Clone Wars version of Cad Bane is pretty cool looking, but he is clearly an inferior figure when compared to the brand new TVC Bane, and it just makes me want a new Clone Wars Cad Bane for TVC even more. Next, let's check out some 6-inch scale Black Series Cad Banes. I'm going to go in reverse order, starting with this newest Book of Boba Fett Cad Bane that came with the 2-pack with Cobb Vanth. Picked this up at my local Target about a month ago, and he is awesome. He looks really good. It's got all the details. It's got blaster effects. I normally don't like to display blaster effects, but this one looks cool. It just really works for that pistol. He's basically got the same soft plastic mold duster jacket as the TVC. And there's a look at his head, and unlike the TVC version, Black Series got it right with the metal plate on there, so I like that. Now his little breathing apparatus on his back does not come off like it does on the TVC version. And there's a look at his hat, which is just fine. So yeah, this is a solid Black Series figure for Cad Bane. And it makes me really appreciate the TVC version because they are basically identical, with the exceptions of the pistols on the Black Series are painted better, and they got that metal plate on his head correct. But other than that, these are basically the same figure, just in different scales. So I'll continue going in reverse order and bring in the Bad Batch version of Cad Bane for the Black Series. And this is another great figure. Really good paint apps with that metallic look on his gauntlet and his chest plate. This is a different breathing apparatus and is loose on the back. His head sculpt has an interesting grimace expression to it where he's squinting his eyes, which is much different than the other Cad Banes we've seen. And his blaster pistols are really awesome looking with that metallic silver with some black and some brown on the grips. And I believe this is an identical pistols to the Clone Wars version we'll see in just a minute. But yeah, this is a very good looking Cad Bane as well. And last but not least is the Clone Wars version of Cad Bane. This was the first Black Series release of Cad Bane, and it is my favorite because I just simply love this particular look of him the best. There's his face sculpt, again a different expression on his face. There's the loose breathing apparatus. He does come with a satchel there, which is nice. He's got those great pistols we saw in the Bad Batch. And look at the detail on those blaster cartridges around his belt, his little jets on the side of his legs. And I love the shape of that soft plastic molded duster jacket. Just a very cool figure. Alright, so there's all three of the Black Series Cad Banes. Very good figures. And let's bring in the 3 3/4 Cads with the animated Clone Wars version and the latest live-action Book of Boba Fett version. These are all excellent figures. I really can't get enough of Cad Bane, and I think Hasbro needs to continue making them, particularly in TVC, as they need to catch up with the Black Series with the Clone Wars version and Bad Batch version. And finally, I just wanted to add that I'm really happy to see the Book of Boba Fett characters starting to get represented in the Vintage Collection. I know the TV show had its issues, but it's still full of very cool looking characters that would make great action figures. And it really started off bleak there at the beginning with just Fennec Shand and Boba Fett as the only TVC figures represented from that show for a while. But now that we got the Tuskens and Cad Bane and Krrsantan, and now you got the new Tusken version of Boba Fett coming out, I'm just really happy to see that they're adding to that series. Alright, so that's going to do it for this episode of Brett on Fett. Let me know in the comments if you're a big fan of Cad Bane, what your favorite Cad Bane figure is, and what you would like to see next for Cad Bane from Hasbro. Thanks so much for checking out this video. Thank you to my subscribers. Don't forget you can also follow me on Instagram and on Twitter or X or whatever it's called these days. Take care, and we'll see you next time.